Yeah. You know, what I remember, I was lucky enough to been around at the end of Ginny's tenure, and she interviewed me. And I remember, I laugh when I think about it now because I said, geez, I nailed that interview because that woman hung on every word I said. And after I was working here 6 months, I realized she hangs on every word everyone says. She was that kind of positive person. It was her way of, believing positive change could happen. And I knew I was someplace different real quickly after a couple of things happened. I came from a hospital organization where everything was, and you had to do your stuff or you got in trouble. And I remember two things. One was, as director of communications, I was supposed to go pick up a check for $10,000 from General Electric, and I forgot. And it was always been trained, like as a professional, to fall on your sword and go admit you did something wrong, and beg forgiveness and hope not to get fired. So I rehearsed all that, and I went in to talk to Ginny. And Ginny, I was supposed to pick up this check. I don't know what happened. I just forgot. I'm really sorry. I'll write to them. And she went, Tom, they do that every month. Don't worry about it. And I thought to myself, you can't get in trouble here, And then there was another one that I'll never forget. And this, to me, kind of illustrates so much about Wildwood then and Wildwood now. There was a board meeting or a advisory board meeting, and so it's bank presidents, it's financial advisors, it's politicians, it's all bigwigs. And my dog Buddy was with me. My first Basset Hound used to come to work with me, and he was sitting next to me, and he was very quiet, and it was all cool. And then 3 kids from school came in, and they were collecting cans. So they had a big garbage bag full of cans. And the one kid came in and he tripped over the bag, and it made a lot of noise, and Buddy went off barking and screaming, and I'm thinking, oh, geez, all these big shots. And Jenny stopped the meeting, and I think, I'm gonna get in trouble. And she stopped the meeting, called the kids over, got down on the floor, and they petted Buddy for a long time, and then said, okay, kids, take care of the cans. And she got back up and ran the meeting. And I went, this joint's different. This is a different place. And that feeling, if you've only worked at Wildwood, you think that's what workplaces are like. That's not what workplaces are like. And I was like, I can hang around here. I can do this. And Ginny, during the interview, Ginny said to me, oh, you were into boxing. You ought to start a boxing program with our kids. And I remember at the time thinking, yeah, right. Yeah, kids with disabilities, we're going to teach them boxing. 10 years later, I started a boxing program that's on its 15th year, and it has been wonderfully successful. And I just think the place was founded on possibilities and what can be, and also like with Buddy and the kids in the board meeting, it was crystal clear what the priority was here. It wasn't the bank presidents. They were important for lots of reasons, but what was important was the kids were respected and got to pet Buddy. And you watch that, and at first you're like, well, this is a little odd. And then you think, yeah, and it's pretty damn cool too. Well, I'm really proud of, our department got real good at getting us on TV and in the media. And, I checked it out, and we get on TV twice as much as some of the other agencies. That's cool, but I'm more proud of how Wildwood and the people we support were depicted. It was never about getting a check. It was never about the second string catcher from the Yankees patting somebody on the back who's in a wheelchair. It was the people we support doing productive things, fulfilling things, and showing their independence, or it was our staff being expert and devoted and creative. And I'm very proud of that, because that shaped, our brand, or whatever term you want to use for it. So I'm proud of that in lots of ways. What I'm most proud of, I think, is I was counting it up the other day, and I think I've referred 20 people to work here. And all of them, or none of them, had experiences with people with disabilities. And this will probably make me choke up, but the boxing program has hired four people who were boxers. And Justin Luna, Taylor Sweet, Nick Kangemi, and some other folks who didn't work with people with disabilities came here and have been stars. And I remember approaching Justin. Justin's over at school, he works in the behavior department. Big, strong guy. And he used to come in on sparring nights, and he'd go into a corner of the gym and wrap his hands, just had this scowl on his face. And I just saw how people respected him, but I didn't know him. And I went over and said, hey, Justin, I'm Tom. I run this boxing program for people with autism and other disabilities. Would love if you volunteered. And he went, all right. And I thought, that's gonna happen. And he showed up, the guy worked as a machinist for General Electric. It wasn't 90 seconds, and he was a devoted, volunteer, loved it. And Taylor, same way, and Nick, and they became super. I just turned the class over to those guys, and now they're some of our Wildwood stars. And I'm proud that they came on board, not ever thinking I want to work with people with disabilities, and now it's their life mission. And that, and I've had 4 family members, between Ellen, one of our current dietitians, my sister, lifeguard Annie, my goddaughter Kate, who was an intern of mine, my nephew Frank in employment, and I don't think any of them ever thought about working with people with disabilities. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of that because what I learned, I never worked with people with disabilities before I came here, and what I learned is there's not a whole lot of difference between people with disabilities. It's the same thing, and being able to introduce people to that kind of work is something that I'm very proud of. Well, there's been a lot of changes. We're much bigger. I think when I started, our budget wasn't $10 million. And sometimes the sentiment becomes, well, we've gotten big and we're not the same, and probably aren't the same, but we reach a whole lot more people. We have really professional plans and expertise in things. It was charming when we were smaller, but there were improvements to be made. Now, used to be you kind of knew everybody, and that's tough to do now, but it's not impossible. And, sometimes the amount of effort here that goes into things like the culture and making people feel good about themselves. Once again, if you've only worked at Wildwood, this isn't the norm. This isn't how, when I worked at a hospital, it was, Tom, what are your numbers like? It wasn't, how you doing today, Tom? It was, and you learn about things when stuff comes up in your life. And I've had a couple of things that have happened to me that I'll never forget the kindness of Wildwood. I had cancer 8 years ago, and the total acceptance of go take care of yourself, Tom. I had 26 chemo treatments and 24 days in the hospital. And Carrie Vandenberg dropped by a hospital in Boston with a box full of letters and cards and candy. And I thought, what? What's good? Mary Ann Allen, I had to be in isolation for 60 days when I got back home after my stem cell transplant. CEO came and sat with me on my porch. You don't forget stuff like that, and just a couple years ago, I lost my mom, and for the last few years, she was almost 101, and I was afforded time to take care of my mom. And Lou, my boss, it was like, do what you got to do, And one time I went to talk in HR with Ann to make sure everything was, she said, you getting your work done? I said, yeah. Okay. That was it. And when you talk about culture and stuff, when you're up against it, things reveal themselves. And I'll always be grateful. It's a cool place. You're allowed and encouraged to be creative, and you get the privilege of helping people live better lives. That's our culture.